She thought marriage meant safety, love, forever. But forever ended the night his phone lit up, and her whole world changed. After the vows is the story of a woman who lost the man she loved to betrayal and found herself in the wreckage he left behind. Emma met Noah on a slow Thursday in October, the kind where the sky looks rinsed and the world feels possible. She was shelving returns at the Maple Street Library when he walked in with a chipped coffee mug and a guilty smile. He had forgotten to return a book about carpentry. He said he wanted to build a bookshelf for his new apartment, and then never did. He laughed at himself. Emma liked that he did not pretend to be more than he was. He asked for a recommendation. She sent him home with a novel about second chances. He brought it back on time and asked if she would go to the farmer's market with him on Saturday. On Saturday, they walked under the canopy of tents, tasting slices of peaches that dripped down their wrists, and the things that would become their lives felt simple. He kissed her in the parking lot. He tasted like mint and peach and the start of something she wanted to keep. They dated a year and married the next spring in her parents' backyard. The lilacs were blooming. Her mother cried when Emma walked down the grass in a tea-length dress that showed her ankles. Her father hummed quietly the way he did when he was trying not to cry. Noah held her hands like he was holding a small bird. After the vows, they ate lemon cake and danced on a rented square of wood. Noah spun her around like a kid with a kite. Their friends shouted for another song. The string lights blinked with the wind. Later that night, they ate cake with their fingers on the kitchen floor, and Noah leaned his head against the cabinet and said, "This is real." Emma said, "It is." He kissed her knuckles. He said, "We are going to be good." They rented a ground-floor apartment with windows that stuck in winter. Emma brought home cast-off books from library sales, and Noah fixed up found furniture he promised to sell on Facebook, but never did. It made the place look like a second-hand store for the sentimental. They learned to live inside the ordinary. They set alarms, shared grocery lists, took turns with the trash, argued about the dishes, made up the next morning, counted coins in a jar for a road trip they would always take someday. There were holidays and dental appointments and damp towels and dumb shows they pretended to hate. Emma thought love was made inside these small rituals, like bread rising in a bowl. No one sees the moment dough becomes bread, but it happens all the same. It began as a whisper she could not place. A late text, a lock screen, a second shower after an evening run that did not smell like sweat. When Noah said he was tired, she believed him. When he said he wanted to go out with Tyler from work because they were pitching to a big client, she said of course. When he came home smelling like citrusy hand soap and a bar kitchen, she believed that too. Love makes room for doubt, and then doubt learns to sleep on the couch. One night in March, rain ticked at the windows while Emma read a mystery with a bad twist. Noah was at the gym. He had started going more. Emma stood to stretch, and his phone buzzed on the coffee table. She was not a person who checked phones. She did not like the person she imagined she would become if she did. She told herself she was only going to silence it because it kept buzzing in that insistent way that says someone needs something now. She tapped the screen and saw a message preview with a heart. It was from someone named Mara. "Thanks for last night. I keep replaying it." Another buzz. "When can I see you again?" Emma stared at the screen as if it could change itself if she waited long enough. The phone buzzed again, a third message she would remember by the exact rhythm of its punctuation. "Tell her you are working late. I will take care of you." Emma stood very still, like someone was hunting in the room. She had the impulse to search the whole phone, to scroll until she reached the beginning of time and found the first lie, but she did not. She locked the screen and placed the phone exactly where it had been. She sat back down and felt the odd calm that sometimes arrives when the world cracks. The rain softened. a car splashed by. In the book she held, the detective had just realized the killer was not the obvious choice. Emma closed it. She looked at the wall clock and counted 10 minutes. Then 20. She opened the freezer and placed 2 glasses inside. She sliced a lemon and set the thin circles on a plate like moons. Noah came in wet and humming, tossed his keys in the dish by the door, kissed her forehead, and said the gym was packed. She said nothing about the phone. She said, "Want a drink?" He smiled yes. She poured gin and tonic and put a lemon slice on the rim of his glass. He said, "This is fancy." She toasted. "To the ordinary," she said. He drank. She watched him watch her. He could tell when she was across a room and unhappy about something as small as the dishwasher being loaded the wrong way. He could tell now. He said, "What is it?" The clock ticked. She said, "Who is Mara?" No stared like she had spoken a language he did not know. He said, "What?" His throat moved. She said, "Your phone lit up. I just saw the name." "I did not read anything," which was a lie she told because she wanted to see what the lie looked like coming back toward her. He said, "A coworker. She needs help with a schedule." He spoke too fast. His voice chose honesty, and his words did not. Emma let him try again. He said, "We all went out. It was not a big deal. There are layoffs. People are stressed. It felt good to talk." He trailed off. Emma held his eyes until he looked away. She said, "Did you sleep with her?" He did not answer. She felt that answer pass through the room like a cold draft. It is strange what the mind does when it needs to survive. Emma's mind left the room and went to strange places. She saw her parents' backyard with the lilacs. She saw the jar of coins. She saw the day he brought the carpentry book to the library and did not know where the hammers were kept. She saw him looking lost inside a life he had promised to cherish. She heard her mother's voice telling her to breathe. She breathed. She said, "I will need truths now." He said, "I made a mistake." She said, "How many mistakes look like this?" He rubbed his forehead. He said, "It was just Mara." Another lie that came out too neat. Emma did not cry. The tears would come later in small quiet rooms, in the shower, in the grocery aisle, when the cashier asked paper or plastic, and she had to choose something and could not. She told Noah to sleep on the couch. At dawn, she left for work and shelved romance novels with covers that felt like a joke, and then she found herself rearranging the nonfiction display because she needed to hold heavy things. At lunch, she sat in her car and looked at the steering wheel and did not eat. She called her sister Lily and said, "I think he cheated." Lily swore and asked for names and addresses, and Emma said there is a Mara who takes care of him now. Lily said, "Come stay with me." Emma said, "I need to see what is true." That night, she asked Noah to open his phone and hand it to her while he watched. He did. She scrolled with him sitting there, and in the bright blue glare of their living room, she learned too much. There was Mara. There was a list she should not have been able to list. A bartender named Jenna, whose laugh she recognized from a night when Noah had stayed to pay the tab and she had waited by the door. A client named Candace who sent voice notes that Emma listened to without moving her face and then deleted. A friend of Tyler's named Bree who wrote, "I never do this," which meant she did it anyway. There were photos cropped to hide details that still told the whole story. There were hotels and cars and half-truths, all stacked on top of vows like stones on a drowned thing. Emma read until reading felt like swallowing glass. She set the phone down. Noah sat with one hand over his mouth. He did not reach for her. Emma wanted a clean explanation. There is not one. He said words like lonely and overwhelmed and broken. He said he wanted to feel new and free, and then he said he did not know, which sounded closer to the truth. He said he loved her. She looked at him and tried to measure the distance between love and what he had done. She could not measure it. It was not a distance. It was a hole. She told him to leave for a week. He packed a duffel and stood in the doorway like he was waiting for a reprieve. Emma did not give it. After he left, she opened every window in the apartment, even though the air was cold. She changed the sheets and threw the lemon slices in the trash and wiped the rings they left on the plate. The phone rang. She let it. When the apartment was quiet, she lay down on the clean bed and tried to sleep. She dreamed of returning books to a library with no shelves. The next morning, she went to work as if work would keep her inside a straight line. She rearranged the community board, pinned a flyer about a lost cat, checked out books for a woman who said she needed stories about courage. Courage felt like a big word that belonged to people in the news. Emma thought she only had persistence and habit. She came home and found a note under the door. It was from Mara. "I did not know about you" was written in tidy loops. Emma knew that was a lie. She set the note in the sink and ran water until the letters blurred. She watched the paper sack. She fished it out and tossed it away. She washed her hands. People like to say everything happens for a reason. Emma did not find comfort in that. Things happen. People choose. You are left with the pieces. She spent the next days calling the doctor for tests because she would not let his choices become her illness. She scheduled a therapist because she needed to say some words to someone who would not try to fix them. She took a run past the river and felt her lungs burn in a way that made sense. She told Lily and her mother and a friend from college named Jordan, who had seen her through other smaller storms and knew what to bring. Jordan came with soup and sodas and a box of saltines. They sat cross-legged on the carpet and ate like teenagers after a dance. Emma told the story without flinching. Jordan said, "You will be all right. It will not feel like it for a while, but you will." Noah called. He texted. He sent a long message listing every lie as if the list could become a confession and the confession could become a cure. Emma read it twice and then a third time and set the phone down. She did not reply. He sent a photo of his hand with her wedding ring still on it. He wrote, "I am not taking it off." Emma did not reply. She slept with the light on for 2 nights, then turned it off the third. On Sunday, she went to church with Lily, even though she had not been in years. She liked the sound of other voices rising together. She did not pray for Noah to return. She did not pray for a clean heart. She prayed for a clear mind. After the service, an older woman with soft eyes touched Emma's elbow and said, "The first lie is that you caused this. The second is that you can fix it alone." Emma nodded as if the woman had given her directions. Noah came by to talk. She told him he could come for 1 hour. He stood in the doorway with flowers that looked exhausted. He placed them on the counter and did not say sorry first, which Emma would remember later as one of the only honest choices he made that week. He said he could not explain it. He said he hated how he was and could not seem to stop being it. He said it started small and then got big, like a dare he kept losing. He said he would go to therapy. He said he would give her all the passwords, all the calendars, all the names. He said he would quit his job if it kept him clean. He said he would start over. Emma listened. She heard that he was desperate to end the feeling of falling. She was not sure if he was desperate to keep her. Emma did what people do when they do not know what to do but have to choose. She made rules. If he wanted to stay married, they would try a year of repair. Real repair, not the kind where you say sorry and buy dinner. He would tell the truth always. He would attend therapy twice a week. He would join a group for compulsive behaviors. He would cut off contact with every person on the list and show her the messages that ended it. He would agree to a separation if she needed space. They would check in at the end of each month and ask if the marriage was growing or shrinking. If it was shrinking, they would stop. Noah said yes to everything. Yes felt like the only word he had left. He moved back in with his voice lowered, like loud sounds could break things. He cooked dinner. He said calendar invites for therapy. He left his phone on the counter when he showered. The first week was quiet in a way that felt false. They smiled at the same time, but did not feel it in the same body. The second week, they argued because Emma asked a question about a night in September, and he did not want to answer. She said, "If there are 12 nights, I own the right to all 12. He said, "I know," he answered. She hated the answer and also felt better because now there was one fewer shadow in the room. The group Noah joined met in a church basement that smelled like burnt coffee. He came home with a list of people's first names that sounded like a roll call for all the versions of shame. He said there were men who had lost everything and were still telling the truth for the first time. He said he saw himself in all of them and did not want to be any of them. He started to cry and looked surprised to find he could still do that. Emma put a hand on his shoulder and left it there. She did not forgive. She simply touched what was in front of her. Summer came and the river slowed. They ate cherries on the steps and spat the pits into a bowl. Some days were good like that. Some days were a mess. People think repair is a staircase you climb. It is a hallway with lights that flicker. Emma learned that trust does not return as a gift. It returns like a skittish animal. If you move too fast, it runs. If you ignore it, it does not know where to go. Noah learned that apologies are not currency. You cannot buy your way back with flowers and the right words. You have to become a person who does not need to be watched. They went to counseling together on Wednesdays. The counselor was a woman named Janie with gray hair pulled into a bun that looked like it could survive a storm. Janie said words like boundaries and consequences without making them feel like punishment. She told Noah that secrecy is a drug. She told Emma that hypervigilance is a cage. She gave them homework. Make a list of 10 unremarkable ways you will choose each other this week. They laughed at the phrasing and did the work. They turned off their phones at dinner. They took a walk after dusk. Noah fixed the window that stuck. Emma left him a note that said she saw the change on Tuesday when he told her he wanted to lie about a small thing and did not. He pinned the note to the used corkboard above the desk. In August, they drove to the lake with a jar of coins they had once collected for someday. They rented a cheap cabin with a screen door that squealed. They grilled corn and read different books and sat side by side in silence that did not hurt. On the third night, the sky cracked open and the storm came the way storms do in summer, sudden and full of itself. The power went out. They lit candles and played gin rummy. Emma won. She looked at him across the small table and felt a new thing, not trust and not love in the old way, but a quiet room in her chest that was willing to be entered again. It scared her to feel it. She did not push it away. In September, Noah relapsed. He did not sleep with anyone. He messaged an old number and deleted the chain and told himself he would tell Emma in the morning. He did not. He waited 2 days and then told her because the lie was a hot coal in his mouth. Emma listened and felt the old glass return. She did not shout. She said, "I will not live with this." He cried the ugly way. He went to a meeting. He told the group exactly what he had done. He told Janie. He told Tyler at work, who had been covering for him without knowing it. He told his mother. Telling made him smaller and truer at the same time. Emma watched. She told herself the story was not. He cheated and then lied and then changed. The story was, he fell apart and is learning to be a person. She would decide later if that person belonged in her life. By winter, they had a rhythm that looked, from the outside, like any other marriage trying to make it. They put on boots. They shoveled. They made soup that tasted better the second day. He kept going to meetings. She kept going to therapy. They did not name it healing. They just lived. One afternoon in January, the library held a reading hour for kids. Emma sat on a tiny chair and read about a bear who had lost his hat. The parents laughed at the right places. The kids shouted the last line. After, a woman lingered by the display of new books. She had a face Emma recognized from the sink-soaked note. Mara. She wore a coat with a fur collar and an expression that wanted to hold two things at once. She said, "I want to say something." Emma nodded. Mara said, "I am sorry, and I know that is too small. I knew he was married. I told myself lies. I am in a program now too. I will not bother you again." Emma said, "Good." Mara nodded and left. Emma stood by the window and watched a mother tie a scarf around a toddler's head with steady fingers. She went to the break room and made tea and cried until it passed through. In February, Emma asked Noah to book the guest room at Janie's office. She wanted to try a truth she was afraid to say. They sat in the ugly upholstered chairs facing each other. Emma kept her hands in her lap. She said, "I do not know if the life I want is one where I am always measuring if you are choosing me. I do not know if I can stop measuring." Noah nodded. He said, "I know." He did not try to argue or make promises he could not keep. He said, "If you choose to leave, I will be proud to have known you as a person who held both of us to the truth." Janie watched them the way someone watches the tide. Emma did not leave that day. She went home and made pasta. They ate and watched a dumb show and laughed at the same joke. She went to bed and stared at the ceiling until dawn. The next morning, she walked to the river and wrote a list in her mind. What did she want if she stayed? What did she want if she left? Both lists had the word peace. She realized that peace was not a place he could hand her. It was a thing she would have to build, and she could build it with him or alone. Spring arrived like a dog that had been running for miles. The lilacs in her parents' yard bloomed again. They went to Easter with her family, and everyone was kind in the way people are when they know the bones of a story, but not the muscles. Her mother hugged Noah a second longer than usual. Her father shook his hand and asked how the car was running. After dinner, Emma and Lily did the dishes and talked about nothing. That night, back in their apartment, Emma stood in the doorway and watched Noah fall asleep with a book on his chest. She saw the man from the farmer's market. She saw the man from the bar. She saw the man from the meeting in the church basement. People contain multitudes, and sometimes the multitudes pull in opposite directions. She wondered if she could love a man who would always be walking toward the better version of himself while the other version watched. On a Tuesday in May, Emma told Noah she wanted a separation. He closed his eyes like the lights had gone out again. He sat up. He asked where he should go. She said, "You can keep the apartment for a while. I will stay with Lily." He cried and did not try to stop. She packed a suitcase in 20 minutes and left the plants and the books and the jar now full of receipts and old bolts. She walked into Lily's spare room and sat on the bed and waited for the grief to feel like something she could hold. The separation lasted 3 months. In that time, Noah kept going to meetings. He did not date. He did not drink. He called once a week to tell her how he was and to ask nothing in return. He sent a picture of the bookshelf he finally built. It was sturdy and unremarkable, and it made Emma cry. She took a pottery class with Jordan on Thursdays. She made bowls that looked like they were thinking about being bowls. She learned to shape clay with even pressure. The teacher said, if you rush the rim, the whole thing collapses. She thought about that a lot. By August, they met for coffee to talk about divorce papers. They both looked good in the way people do when they start sleeping again. He said he had found an apartment near the river, and that it had windows that actually opened. He said he sometimes woke to birds and felt like a person who was being sung to. He told her he had become a sponsor to a man named Keith who wore suits to meetings because it made him feel braver. Emma told him about pottery and how the clay had taught her patience in a way therapy never could. They looked at each other and saw that they were not the same as the two people who had danced on a wooden square under string lights. They were also not the two people from the night of the lemon slices and the 3 buzzes. They were somewhere else. Noah said, "I will always be sorry for what I did." Emma said, "I know." He said, "I will miss your laugh." She laughed, which made them both cry. He said, "I hope you find a love that does not make you count." She said, "I hope you become a man who does not make anyone count." They held hands for a moment like siblings and then let go. The divorce was simple and hard. Paperwork is tidy about things that are not. They sold the car and split the savings that were not much. Emma moved into a 1-bedroom above a bakery. The smell of bread in the morning made her believe in the future. She put the bowls she had made on a narrow shelf by the window and watched them catch evening light. She worked extra hours at the library and started a weekend story hour for adults called Quiet Sundays. People came and sat with coffee and listened. She began to write down her own stories at night, just a page or two with the window open, the city breathing below. One evening in late September, she ran into Tyler at the grocery store. He was buying cereal and jasmine rice. He looked at her with a kindness that had learned how to be gentle. He said Noah was doing all right. He said he had not seen him at the bar in a long time. He said he thought Noah was becoming the guy he always wanted to hire. Emma thanked him and then walked down the aisle and cried beside the soups because change is not a straight line, but it is a line. In October, exactly 3 years after the chipped mug and the guilty smile, Emma walked to the farmer's market alone. The sky looked rinsed again. She tasted a slice of peach that dripped down her wrist. A vendor handed her a napkin and said summer is stubborn this year. She smiled. At the far end of the tent, a musician played an old love song on a soft guitar. Emma stood and listened. She thought about all the ways a heart can be broken and still keep time. There are people who will hear her story and try to arrange it into a lesson. She does not. She thinks of it as a life that went the way it went and then turned. She does not regret the backyard vows or the lemon slices or even the nights she believed he was only at the gym. Believing is not a fault. It is a choice that makes the world livable until it does not. She knows now that love is not the absence of betrayal. Love is the presence of choice, even after betrayal, a stubborn faith that you can choose yourself without hating another person for losing their way. One night, she sat in the quiet of her new apartment with the window cracked and wrote the last page of the story she thought she would never tell. Outside, someone laughed, a sound carrying up like birds. She did not know if the man she once married was alone, or if he had found a way to be honest with another person. She did not know if she would meet someone who would walk beside her without making her count. She did know that she had built a small piece that fit her and that it was real. She knew the smell of bread in the morning and the weight of a bowl that had not collapsed. She knew the quick smile of a kid at story hour and the first sip of coffee when the day has not yet decided what it will be. She placed her pen down and looked at the city, at taillights moving like slow beads, at a couple arguing without anger on the corner, at a delivery guy leaning on his bike, at a woman pulling her child's hood up against a thin rain. The world was doing what it always does. It kept going. Emma exhaled and allowed the quiet to be quiet. The past was a place with bad furniture and a good view. The future was a room she could walk into when she was ready. A week later, she visited her parents. The lilacs were long gone, but her mother had planted mums that looked loud and happy. They ate lemon cake at the table, and her father hummed. He asked how the car was running. Emma said fine and laughed a little, and her mother squeezed her hand. After dinner, Emma went outside and stood in the yard where she had once said "I do." The grass was different, the season had changed, but the air still felt like a promise. She thought of the boy with the chipped mug, the man on the couch, the person Noah was trying to be somewhere else. She hoped he kept at it. She hoped everyone did. That night, she drove home with the window cracked, wind in her hair, the radio low. She passed the river and saw the reflection of the bridge lights, thin and faithful. She did not think of the 3 buzzes or the list of names or the voice notes said in the dark. She thought about the ordinary. She wanted a life made inside grocery lists, and the right cough syrup, and the careful way someone takes their shoes off by the door. She knew now she could give that life to herself, and that made the idea of sharing it with someone else someday feel like a gift rather than a rescue. Back in her apartment, she turned on the lamp beside the couch and set out 2 glasses just because she liked the way the light curved through them. She sliced a lemon into thin moons and placed them on a plate. She poured water and sat on the rug and lifted her glass. To the ordinary, she said and drank. The ring on her finger was gone. The mark it left had faded. The hand remained. It could open. It could close. It could build a shelf or steady a bowl on a wheel. It could turn a page and then another. It could hold. It could let go. It would do both. Thanks for watching.